Meiman. I watch the battle and pick up attributes, 10,000 times critical strike. Chapter 31. Bang. Just as Bullseye threw another ball. The man raised his hand. Bang. A baseball appeared in his hand. That hand did not move at all, like a boulder, as if it had caught a cotton ball. The man moved his hand. Bang. The man held two baseballs in his hand. Seeing this scene, Bullseye's pupils constricted like needles. His heart trembled. A trace of fear rose in his heart. The others were also petrified when they saw this scene. After all, they had seen the power of the baseball with their own eyes. Daredevil, who was covered in blood on the ground, was the best example. Ordinary people couldn't even see the shadow of such a terrifying baseball, but it was easily caught by this mysterious man. Everyone was horrified. Li Shu raised his hand and made a throwing motion. Seeing this, Bullseye's blood froze. He already had the illusion that he was in extreme pain. Whoosh! A baseball flew at Bullseye. Bullseye hurriedly dodged to the side. At the same time, he found that the speed of the baseball was extremely slow. It was as slow as an ordinary person's throwing speed, and a normal person could see the arc. If he dodged, the baseball couldn't hit him at all. A trace of confusion rose in his heart. What's going on? Why is this baseball so slow? While Bullseye was puzzled, the baseball suddenly deviated from its original trajectory and rushed at him. Bullseye's pupils dilated. Quote question mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Where's Newton? Is he not going to do anything? Bang! The baseball hit the Bullseye on his forehead. Ah! There was a scream. Bullseye covered his forehead. Not just Daredevil, but also the others around him saw the baseball turn and rush at Bullseye. There was an uproar. Shish asterisk T. This guy's ball can turn. Quote. Oh my god. Is this a magic baseball? Quote. Good lord, everyone is throwing. Why is this guy so outstanding? Others are playing science, but you're playing theology. Li Shu had probably slowed down the ball just now. It was to test the correction ability. Because if he was stronger, the ball would be too fast for Bullseye to dodge, and he wouldn't be able to test the correction ability at all. Originally, he was only prepared to experiment with one ball, but he didn't expect that the other party would send him two balls. The experiment was over. Next up, it was a normal throw. He immediately made a throwing motion again. Pung! The air exploded. The baseball shot out, tearing the sky apart. Bullseye had no time to react. Pung! His entire body flew out as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. He hit the iron pole behind him. The iron rod was slightly dented. Bullseye coughed out a mouthful of blood, and his face withered. No one had expected that a small baseball could have such terrifying power. He was sent flying several meters away. Everyone looked at the smiling masked man, only to feel that the smiling face had become abnormally strange and terrifying. Li Shu looked at Bullseye's status and then at Daredevil's. It's only fair that both of them are in the same state. Hearing this, Daredevil's heart trembled and his scalp went numb. Are you going to do it to me too? When the passers-by heard this, their eyes widened. What kind of demon is this? Wouldn't it be suicide for such a patient to do it? Quote. It's over. I'm afraid Daredevil is going to die here today. Hearing this, Bullseye was delighted. Someone was going to take the beating with him. Li Shu was speechless. Daredevil must have been knocked out. But he didn't reply. Instead, he simply moved. He dashed out and charged at Bullseye. Seeing Li Shu rushing at him, Bullseye was almost scared out of his wits. He shouted in his heart, what the air you talking about? You're going to turn me into Daredevil. He immediately turned around and ran for his life. Li Shu curled the corner of his mouth. It was a good time to try out his new skill. He activated Assassin Grandmaster, Stealth. In the next moment, his aura was restrained to the extreme. His heartbeat was also suppressed to the extreme, as if it had stopped beating. At the same time, his speed soared. He turned into a straight line and shot at Bullseye. Sensing the unprecedented speed, Li Shu curled the corner of his mouth. This speed was too fast. This was a 70% speed bonus. Other people couldn't see his movements at all. Hearing the sound, Bullseye was even more shocked. He hurriedly threw out the last baseball in his hand. He wanted to interfere with the other party. Bang! The baseball turned into an arc and swept toward Li Shu's weakness. As a top assassin, Bullseye's ability to aim at weaknesses was basically an instinct. Almost every attack he made was aimed at a human's weakness. Under Bullseye's throw, the baseball was as fast as an arrow. It was extremely swift and violent. However, it was much slower than Li Shu's speed. Li Shu leaned to the side and dodged the attack. In the next moment, he arrived behind Bullseye and kicked out. Bullseye. How can he be so fast? Bang. Bullseye was sent flying into the woods and smashed into a tree. Blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he felt as if all his bones had been ground to pieces. The excruciating pain made him scream uncontrollably. It hurt too much. Enduring the excruciating pain, Bullseye got up from the ground and limped away, not daring to stay. The monster behind him was too terrifying. It was just a game. He was still within a reasonable range, but the other party was completely unreasonable. He was definitely no match for such a person. Daredevil, who was on the ground, was also surprised. With his super hearing, he couldn't hear the other party's voice at all. He almost couldn't hear that person's voice. The originally loud and clear voice suddenly dropped, becoming extremely weak. What surprised him the most was the other party's heartbeat. It was extremely slow and subtle, as if it belonged to a dying man. Even a dying person would not be able to have such a strange heartbeat. On the other hand, even with his keen sense of smell, he couldn't smell the other party at all. It was as if the other party was air. How was that possible? Why was the other party's smell gone all of a sudden? Daredevil's heart was in turmoil. However, Li Shu didn't chase after him, because he knew that Bullseye's state was almost the same as Daredevil's, if not worse. Daredevil looked at Li Shu's back and coughed. Thank you. Li Shu said, it seems that I accidentally hit Bullseye too hard. Didn't I say that they should be in the same state? He turned around and looked at Daredevil. So, do you want some too? Daredevil's face instantly turned green. Quote question mark exclamation mark quote. When the people around heard Li Shu's words, they called him the devil. Shish asterisk T, can we have some of this? Daredevil is already so miserable. Do you still want to beat him up? Good lord, you're so fair. Others are Spider-Man Daredevil. Are you trying to be fair? I've seen a lot of living bodhisattvas, but this is the first time I've seen a living Hades. Looking at Daredevil's green face, Li Shu laughed it off. Whoosh. He turned into a shadow and left. Seeing Li Shu leave, Daredevil immediately breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was extremely vigilant, afraid that the other party would come back and attack him. After all, he really couldn't figure out this mysterious man. Seeing that Li Shu had completely left, Daredevil finally felt relieved and stumbled away. After running for a while, Li Shu summoned his attribute board. Tonight, he had really gained a lot. Host. Li Shu. Strength. 72 plus 18. Physique. 52 plus 18 plus 6. Agility. 36. Spirit. 6 plus 5. Ability. Meditation, Intermediate Accelerated Healing, Sharpshooter, Correction, Assassin Grandmaster, Stealth, Sensing, Self-Healing Factors Dual Characteristics, Wolverine's Enhanced Monster Sense of Smell. His strength had increased to more than 70 points. His physique had also increased to nearly 50 points. Previously, his physique was the lowest of the 3 physical attributes. After this, it had become the second. The physique here referred more to the physical strength. For example, Gwen's physique was relatively low, so she would be scratched by ordinary knives and sharp things. It belonged to the kind of high attack and low imitation. And now he was more balanced. Before, the blade could basically not cut his skin. After this growth, he could clearly feel that his physical strength had improved further. It was estimated that it was almost to the extent that it could withstand bullets. However, whether it could withstand bullets or not, he still needed to do some experiments. His spirit attribute, which had not changed for 10,000 years, finally had some breakthroughs. He could feel the strengthening of his spirit power, which made it easier for him to use spirit skills. His spirit defense was also stronger. Other than that, it was just that in the 2 battles tonight, he had dropped 8 times. He was really lucky. Looking at the attribute board, Li Shu was in a very good mood. After a few leaps, they landed in front of a Chinatown. He walked in, and when he came out, his hands were full of braised duck and some braised food. His little assistant had been working with him all night. It was time to reward her. Very soon, Li Shu returned to his shop. He opened the window and walked in. As for the little assistant, she was sitting in front of her desk. She was too tired and sleepy. His head bobbed up and down like a student in the morning class. However, he waited for Li Shu to come in. Immediately, the little assistant's nose twitched unconsciously, and she smacked her lips twice. The next moment, she suddenly woke up and stared at the bag in Li Shu's hand with her eyes wide open. His eyes turned green and his stomach growled. Li Shu couldn't help but laugh when she saw her assistant's reaction. As expected, only money and good food could attract the attention of the little assistant. The assistant swallowed. Boss, what did you buy? Li Shu lifted the bag and said, Oriental braised duck and braised food. Have you eaten it before? Quote. The little assistant hurriedly shook her head. No, but it smells so good. Li Shu smiled and said, my little assistant has worked so hard. I'm going to reward her tonight. Hearing Li Shu's words, the little assistant jumped up happily, rushed to Li Shu, and hugged him. Boss is the best. Feeling the soft meat in his arms, Li Shu's smile did not fade. It was comfortable. After hugging Li Shu, the little assistant hurriedly helped Li Shu carry the braised food in his hand to the coffee table. Li Shu said, since you've eaten, how can you not drink something? If you want braised duck and braised food, you have to drink with me. After saying that, Li Shu carried 2 cases of cold beer up from downstairs. Li Shu looked at the little assistant. Are you good at drinking? Little assistant. I've tried drinking a few times, but I've never gotten drunk. When Li Shu heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up. Then I'll have enough tonight. He picked up the 2 bottles of beer and put his thumb under the bottle cap. Bang! Bang! He opened the bottle cap with his hand. It was a little cool. The little assistant hurriedly flattered. Cool. The 2 of them each had a bottle. A crisp sound of glass colliding could be heard. The 2 of them began to gorge themselves and kept drinking. Drinking and eating meat at the same time. It was really too enjoyable. Of course, the most important thing was to be with friends. The little assistant took a bite of the duck leg covered in grease and a look of enjoyment appeared on her face. It's too delicious. She raised the duck leg high. Daisy, announce. Braised duck is the best duck in the world. Quote. After saying that, she downed a glass of beer and continued to eat the meat. Soon, in the box, there were more and more empty beer bottles. The little assistant only blushed, but there was no trace of drunkenness in her eyes. 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes. The 2 of them went to the underground garage to use the toilet several times. The little assistant's eyes were still clear. After eating the last braised duck meat, the little assistant patted her bulging belly in satisfaction. I'm full. Thank you, boss. Quote. Looking at the little assistant who was not drunk at all, and then at the boxes of empty bottles on the ground, Li Shu's expression was slightly stunned. The other party was completely fine after drinking so much. It was really beyond Li Shu's expectations. He was fine after drinking so much because his physical fitness had reached an astonishing level. If the little assistant was not drunk, it could only be said that her ability was abnormal. The other party might really have a physique that could not get drunk after 1,000 glasses. The little assistant's greasy hands held Li Shu's face and giggled. I told you before, boss. I've never been drunk before. Just as she finished laughing, the little assistant closed her eyes and fell into Li Shu's arms. Her mouth bumped into Li Shu's mouth. Li Shu hurriedly hugged the other party to prevent her from falling. Just like that, their mouths met. However, Li Shu did not feel any romantic feelings in his heart. After all, their mouths were covered in oil. Then, the little assistant's light and even breathing sounded. He listened to the other party's even heartbeat. Li Shu understood that the other party had fallen asleep. The corner of his mouth twitched a few times. Good fellow. This girl's reaction when she was drunk seemed to be completely different from others. If she was not drunk, she would be completely fine. Once she was drunk, she would fall asleep. He felt the other party's greasy little hands and the oil on his face. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. He rolled his eyes. Li Shu carried the little assistant and brought her downstairs. He washed her face, brushed her teeth, and washed her hands. He also washed up. In return, he took a little advantage of the little assistant. Li Shu carried the much cleaner little assistant upstairs. The little assistant even began to grind her teeth softly and talk in her sleep. He could not hear clearly. The corner of his mouth twitched a few times. Did she start to talk in her sleep after getting drunk? He bent down and placed the little assistant on the sofa. The little assistant muttered, "I still want to eat." As she said that, she raised her head and their mouths were pressed together. This time, Li Shu's eyes widened slightly. It was soft and had the refreshing feeling of mint toothpaste. The atmosphere was charming. Li Shu attacked the city and seized the land. But then, he took a breath of cold air and raised his head. Looking at the other party's white and neat teeth, Li Shu was speechless. Did this girl really eat in her dream? He put the little assistant on the sofa. Li Shu turned and went downstairs. He felt the slight numbness on his tongue and the corner of his eyes twitched unconsciously. This girl was really going to kill him. Fortunately, his physique was up. He didn't know what this girl ate in her dream. Duck leg. Or chicken leg. Li Shu took a shower and cooled down. Then, he went to sleep. He had been running all night and was a little tired. As for the materials in the basement, he would get them when he woke up. The night was silent. The next day. Clang. The shutter door of the shop was opened. Li Shu woke up from his sleep and rubbed his sleepy eyes. He knew that Black Widow had come to work. He yawned. He went into the basement to wash up and came to the shop. The shutter door was half open. The plump Black Widow was counting the goods on the shelves. Today, Black Widow was wearing a flowery shirt with a white vest inside, revealing a touch of proud beauty. Her jeans were full and perky, like a ripe peach. She glanced at Li Shu and chuckled. Did you drink last night? I can smell the faint smell of alcohol from downstairs. Quote. I'm afraid you drank a lot. Li Shu shrugged. It's okay, just a little. Black Widow smiled. The next time you drink, you can call me. With one more drinking partner, the atmosphere will be stronger. Li Shu smiled and said, okay, next time definitely. Black Widow continued, by the way, I've changed my residence. I'm staying on the second floor. There was a mezzanine above Li Shu's shop. It was separated by himself, so it was not considered the second floor. Above the mezzanine was the second floor. Li Shu's mouth curled up. Then it seems that the next time we drink, I can call you. He definitely knew the reason for Black Widow's actions. It was to get closer to him. He was not afraid of the other party approaching him. After all, there were many cases in history where one suffered a double loss. He could eat up such a hot and mature woman without spitting out any bones. Since he approached him with a purpose, he had to pay a price. There was no man who wouldn't have a reaction when faced with Black Widow's voluptuous mature woman, unless they couldn't. Black Widow smiled sweetly. Definitely. My alcohol tolerance is pretty good. At this moment, Black Widow wanted to grab something from the top shelf. She stood on her tiptoes, but she still couldn't reach it. Just as she was about to move a stool over, a voice rang out. Li Shu quietly came behind her. What are you taking? I'll help you. Black Widow was shocked. She fell back and stuck to Li Shu's body. Feeling the hot curves and softness in his arms, Li Shu's mind swayed. Li Shu hugged Black Widow's slender waist and chuckled in her ear, don't worry, you won't fall with me around. Li Shu stood properly on his own. He was deeply rooted and helped to stabilize the other party's body. What are you taking? Hot air flowed around Black Widow's ear like a stream. Black Widow pointed at the thing on the top shelf. Her voice was a little weak. It's that. I'm going to take it down and put it in a more conspicuous place. Li Shu took the thing down and handed it to her. Black Widow's cheeks were slightly red. Her eyes were watery and her voice was weak. How much longer do you want to hug me? Li Shu smiled and said, I'm afraid that you won't be able to stand properly. Take it. As he spoke, he slowly let go of Black Widow's waist. Black Widow rolled her eyes at Li Shu. However, in Li Shu's eyes, this gaze was filled with the charm of a mature woman. Li Shu's lips curled up slightly and he left. Black Widow shook her hair and returned to normal. She continued to tidy up her things. At the same time, she turned on the TV. The TV was broadcasting the news. A few days ago, a spaceship fell from the sky with raging flames. In the end, it crashed into a forest. Not long after, the investigators of the Life Foundation went there to inspect the fallen spaceship. There were also some photos posted on it. There was the wreckage of the spaceship. In the corner of the wreckage, there were a few inconspicuous glass containers. If one looked carefully, they would see that there was some pitch-black liquid inside the containers. It was like a spider lying on the glass. Black Widow didn't pay much attention to this news. Instead, she went to pull up the shutter door and opened for business. Li Shu went down to the basement. Li Shu had already installed a security system in the basement. Other than him and his assistant, no one else could enter. If they wanted to force their way in, Li Shu would receive a notification. He entered the basement. Li Shu first began to test his body's strength, which was 52 points. This time, the drop increased his body's strength by 24 points, which almost doubled his body's strength. He didn't know what level he had reached now. Previously, he could defend against ordinary knives. He didn't know if he could defend against ordinary pistol bullets now. As he spoke, he came to the weapon cabinet. There were some ordinary weapons he had bought inside. He took out a normal powered pistol. He aimed it directly at his hand. It didn't matter even if he couldn't defend against it. After all, he now had a strong healing ability and could recover very quickly. However, if he couldn't defend against it, it would hurt a lot. In order to test the results and his strength, Li Shu was willing to take the risk and experience the pain of being shot through. He frowned slightly and decisively pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet flew out and hit Li Shu's hand. Li Shu took a deep breath. A trace of sweat seeped out of his forehead. He felt a strong pain coming from his hand. He looked at his palm. A slightly sunken white spot appeared on it. With the help of the self-healing factor and meditation, the pain disappeared in a second or two. His palm returned to normal. Li Shu's expression was serious. Ordinary pistol bullets can no longer penetrate my body. But they will still bring me a very strong pain. So, even if I'm facing an ordinary pistol, I still have to dodge if I can. Li Shu looked at the rifle beside him and frowned. I think the rifle bullets should be able to penetrate my body. I think my physique will increase a lot to be able to block the rifle bullets. An ordinary pistol was already his current limit. So he didn't test the rifle again. When the pistol was no longer a threat to him, he could try a stronger rifle. After testing his physical strength, Li Shu took out the expensive materials from yesterday and began to use the manufacturing equipment to create a portable battle suit and a normal battle suit. A portable battle suit was something that could be carried around. It was very convenient to use. It was Iron Man's small box battle suit. Because it was portable, it was inferior to an ordinary steel battle suit in terms of function and strength. But it was enough for ordinary occasions. Moreover, even in more intense occasions, it was enough to support for a period of time and then wait for the normal battle suit to fly over or wait for his arrival. Other than that, Li Shu also prepared to remake the smiling face mask. He installed communication facilities and augmented reality functions on it. At that time, it would be more convenient for him to contact the little assistant. At the same time, he could also let the little assistant directly share the relevant information through the screen on the mask. Chi. Li Shu started to get busy in the basement. He was busy until noon. Li Shu stopped the work at hand and went to the second floor to eat. Previously, Li Shu and Daisy ate takeout. Now that Black Widow was here, she was cooking at her house, so she let the two of them eat at her house. Black Widow's house was very simple and ordinary. There was very little furniture. In the living room, there was only a sofa, a dining table, and a matching chair. That was it. During the meal, the three of them chatted casually. Black Widow chatted with the little assistant. The two women had a lot in common. Soon, Black Widow talked about the news she saw this morning. Li Shu was just listening casually. He only heard about the Life Foundation and the spaceship that fell into the forest. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Wasn't this the Venom plot that he was familiar with? He didn't expect. There was actually Venom in this world. Since Venom was here, Venom's battle would soon begin. He didn't know. What could Venom drop for him? He was looking forward to it. So, after the meal, Li Shu found Daisy and asked her to pay attention to a reporter named Eddie Brock. Definitely, or possibly a former reporter. After all, in the movie, this guy seemed to have lost his job. Very soon, Daisy found Eddie. After all, Eddie was quite famous in the news industry. The assistant looked at Eddie's information and said, "This guy recently offended the Life Foundation and was fired. In addition, his girlfriend was also implicated by him and lost her job, so the two of them broke up." The assistant smacked his lips and said, "Man, he's really unlucky." The little assistant looked up at Li Shu and asked in confusion, "Why are you paying attention to him?" Li Shu shrugged. "Just keep an eye on it. I have my own plans." The little assistant also learned from Li Shu and shrugged. "Okay." Li Shu continued, "Keep tracking him for me. If this guy sneaks into the Life Foundation, let me know. Do you understand?" The assistant made an okay gesture. After Li Shu finished talking about business, he looked at his assistant and said, "Oh yeah, don't drink with others in the future." Yesterday, he drank so much that he passed out. The main reason was that he was afraid that this girl would be taken advantage of when she drank with others. The assistant recalled what happened last night. Other than drinking with the boss and holding his face at the same time, she couldn't remember anything else. The assistant was a little uneasy. "I didn't lose my composure after drinking, right?" Li Shu gave her a thumbs up and said with a serious expression, "You're very good at drinking." The assistant smiled. "Indeed, drinking reveals one's character. I'm indeed a good person." Li Shu continued, "Other than getting physical with your boss, there's nothing else wrong with you." The assistant blushed and made an okay gesture. She said, "In the future, I won't drink with anyone who asks me to drink." Li Shu said seriously, "Other than me, you can still drink with me. After all, your boss is a gentleman." Quote. He said without blushing, "Look at you yesterday. Your clothes were neat and tidy. There's nothing wrong with your body, right?" The assistant nodded and made an okay gesture again. "Boss can do it. Although the boss is usually not serious, he will never drop the ball at critical moments." Quote. Li Shu nodded in satisfaction. Then, he went back to work in the basement. In fact, Li Shu had also thought about whether he should artificially create a fight between two super existences. However, according to the rules of the system, if he intervened in the fight, the chances of dropping would be greatly reduced. That would be too strenuous and unrewarding. Therefore, he looked for a fight and watched it. That was the best way. In the next few days, Li Shu basically stayed underground, building the Iron Man armor and the arc reactor that belonged to the little assistant. With the powerful energy provided by the arc reactor, the security level in his basement could be raised by 1 or 2 levels. When the time came, an ordinary superhero wouldn't be able to break in alive. That night, Li Shu had just finished working in the basement. His assistant sent him a message. Eddie went to the Life Foundation. Li Shu hurried upstairs and looked at the assistant's computer screen. Inside the computer screen was a public camera on the highway. Daisy had already zoomed in on the camera. She could clearly see the scene in a car. Eddie was sitting in a car with a woman and driving in the direction of the Life Foundation. He knew that the woman next to Eddie was a researcher of the foundation. Because the foundation had used living people for experiments and killed many people, they were condemned, so they wanted to ask Eddie to expose this matter. The two of them went to the foundation, took the corresponding photos as evidence, and then exposed them. Li Shu saw this and the corners of his mouth curled up. When Eddie went to the Foundation's laboratory and saw the symbiote venom, it was time for the real venom to appear. Seeing this, Li Shu picked up the new mask and left. While running on the roof, Li Shu put on the mask. Suddenly, a 3D map appeared in front of him. The destination was marked on it, as well as the two of them who were moving. This was the augmented reality function he had added. In fact, it was the projection function in the Iron Man mask. With this thing, it would be much more convenient to do things. He didn't need to hold a phone and wear headphones. Li Shu quickly caught up with Eddie and Daisy and followed them into the laboratory of the Life Foundation building. At night, the laboratory was dark and dead silent. The female doctor helped Eddie keep watch at the door. Eddie sneaked in to take photos. He didn't notice. On the ceiling, a black shadow had been following him. Soon, Eddie found a familiar tramp. In order to save the other party, he picked up a fire extinguisher and smashed the glass door of the laboratory. The alarm sounded. Bang! Eddie smashed the door open. The tramp directly pounced on Eddie. There was also a ball of light falling with him. When Li Shu saw the ball of light fall out, he was stunned. My goodness, is this considered a fight? Ding! Venom dropped. Venom's language ability, Black Iron High Level. Do you wish to withdraw? Venom's language ability. Because Venom has been to many planets, he also knows many languages, such as Martian, Pluto, Lucky Star, and so on. He also knows the languages of many creatures. Seeing the dropped ability, the corner of Li Shu's mouth twitched. He didn't expect this to drop. If you say it's useless, maybe it will come in handy. After all, he knows many languages and can communicate with more people. If you say it's useful, it feels like he won't go to other worlds for the time being. Li Shu shrugged slightly. It's better than nothing. It's always good to increase accumulation. Li Shu said in his heart, withdraw. Ding. Extracted. Venom's language ability, triggered 10 times critical hit. Obtained, language ability. Quote. Language ability. Contains all the languages that Venom knows, and also gives you a super strong language ability. No matter what language you learn, you will be able to quickly reach the level of proficiency. Immediately. A large number of language memories poured into Li Shu's mind. Li Shu's attention fell below again. At the moment, Li Shu was like a boulder, crawling on the ceiling. This was the Assassin Master, Stealth's ability to restrain himself. If he only activated the Stealth ability and didn't activate the Acceleration ability, the Stealth could last for a very long time. Because the Stealth ability didn't consume much energy. For Li Shu, this was a very good thing. After all, as a spectator, he had to be inconspicuous and silently pick up all the dropped items. Below. A dark liquid flowed out of the female tramp's body and directly drilled into Eddie's body. Eddie immediately let out a miserable cry. The little assistant also saw this scene through Li Shu's vision. She had never seen such a strange creature and only felt her hair stand on end. Oh my god. What is this? A big sticky lump, all of it drilled into Eddie's body. So disgusting. Quote. The little assistant shuddered, and the hair on her arm stood up. Li Shu did not feel anything about it. He activated his super perception and observed the changes in Eddie. He could clearly feel that the venom had integrated into Eddie's body, as if his cells were organically integrating. Meanwhile, Eddie's cells were rapidly becoming stronger. But at the same time, the venom was also devouring Eddie's life energy. However, it seemed that the two were very compatible. The devouring force was not violent, but rather delicate. As long as Eddie replenished his energy from the outside world, he could make up for the loss in this aspect. Unlike the previous tramp, whose life energy and vitality were crazily devoured by the venom, which caused his internal organs to fail and die. Definitely, if Eddie did not replenish his life energy from the outside world, he would eventually be swallowed by venom. After a series of screams, the two finally completed the basic integration. At this moment, the alarm had already attracted groups of security personnel. They rushed into the underground laboratory with guns in hand. Seeing the security guards, Eddie quickly fled. At this moment, Eddie's speed suddenly increased a lot. He was even faster than a professional athlete. The security guard quickly raised his gun and shot at Eddie. The underground laboratory was used for shady business, so they would kill anyone who barged in to prevent the secret from being leaked. Bang! 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 Eddie's figure suddenly became flexible, and as if he had eyes on his back, he frantically turned in the aisles, avoiding the enemy's attacks. At this moment, Eddie's mind was slightly blank. His body was moving by itself. Definitely, it was controlled by venom. Meanwhile, Li Shu went to a higher floor and used his super perception to lock onto Eddie, who was downstairs, from afar. He followed Eddie all the way. He could clearly see everything downstairs. As Eddie dodged, he came to an iron door. He kicked the iron door directly. This scene made Eddie himself stunned. How did his strength become so strong? But the bursts of gunshots made Eddie unable to think more. He could only continue to run wildly. At this moment, 2 light balls fell. Ding! Venom dropped, Dexterity 3. Do you want to withdraw? Ding! Venom dropped, Strength 5 inches. Do you want to withdraw? Li Shu's eyes lit up slightly. Sure enough, 2 attribute points were dropped this time. He said silently in his heart, withdraw. Ding! Extracted, Dexterity 3. Triggered 6 times critical hit. Obtained, Dexterity 18 inches. Ding! Extracted, Strength 5 inches. Triggered 3 times critical hit. Obtained, Strength 15. A total of 33 attribute points. Li Shu's eyes suddenly sparkled. This wave of drops was still very good. The next moment, a strange force flowed into Li Shu's body. It further enhanced Li Shu's strength and dexterity. At the same time, Li Shu's attribute board also changed. Host. Li Shu. Strength. 87 plus 15. Constitution. 46. Dexterity. 54 plus 18. Spirit. 6. More power surged out of his body. His strength reached 87 points. He estimated that his current strength was enough to wrestle with the Hulk in his normal state. If the buff was fully activated, he might be able to compete with the Hulk whose strength had increased because of rage. His attention continued to return to Eddie, who was running wildly for his life. He could feel that Eddie's integration with Venom at this moment had gone further. The power contained in the cells of Eddie and Venom had also become stronger. It would not be long before the two sides would be completely integrated. Bang! Eddie finally ran to the edge of the underground laboratory. He directly broke through the glass wall and rushed outside. He rushed down a grassy slope and ran all the way. None of the security personnel's bullets hit him at all. Whoosh! Li Shu also flew out from upstairs and at the same time, activated the speed of stealth. He was like a ghost, running on the ground and trees, following closely behind Eddie and the security personnel. Because his movements were extremely subtle, almost no one noticed his existence. Looking at Eddie who was running wildly, Li Shu muttered in his heart, "Time is almost up, the battle is almost over, drop some more valuable things, drop some more, at least drop some Venom's ability." Eddie rushed to the front of the barbed wire fence. He jumped up and crossed the barbed wire fence that was a few meters high. When he landed on the ground, Eddie was completely shocked. He turned around and looked at the tall iron fence. He was dumbfounded. Did I do this? How high did I jump? Single quote. Clang clang clang. The bullets hit the iron fence. Sparks bloomed. Eddie was so scared that he rolled and crawled, running towards the forest in front of him. The security guards were shocked when they saw this scene. What the hell was this guy? Why did he jump so high? Quote. Chase. We have to keep this person here, or we'll be in trouble. Quote. More security guards chased after him. They also rushed into the forest and shot at Eddie who was in front of them with their guns. Eddie moved left and right as he ran, dodging the attacks. Bang bang bang. The bullets hit the big trees. Tree debris flew everywhere. At the top of the building, a man in his 30s was looking down at all of this. His expression was extremely ugly. This person was the founder of the Life Foundation, Dr. Drake. He was just the leader of this series of symbiotic experiments. He clenched his fists tightly. Catch this thief for me. We can't let him escape. Quote. That thief had his incomparably precious extraterrestrial experimental body. That was the key to his evolution. There were only 3 of them in his entire laboratory. Moreover, one of them had died. There were only 2 left. Now that one of the 2 had been stolen, how could he not be angry? At this moment, he saw a figure fly out from the bottom of the building. It was so fast that he could barely see the other party's figure clearly. Before he could react completely, Yi Zichen was stunned. The figure's speed increased sharply. It was almost like a black line running on the ground. Its speed was so fast that it was frightening. That black figure was Li Shu, whose agility had increased to more than 50 points. It had also increased its speed by stealth. Dr. Drake's eyes widened. What is this? Is it a person? Quote. Before the other party accelerated, he did see a figure. Drake sucked in a breath of cold air. A person can run so fast. I can only see an afterimage. Quote. What kind of monster is this? At this moment, the rushing black shadow attracted most of Drake's attention. Because that guy's speed was simply too shocking. Could it be that the last symbiotic demon has disappeared? Drake suspected that the running figure was the last symbiotic demon of the Golden Foundation. As soon as this thought popped up in his mind, a trace of fear rose in his heart. He hurriedly ran back to the computer and opened the surveillance footage. He adjusted the footage to the room of the last symbiote. Take a look. The last symbiotic demon was still inside. There were no signs of damage to the surrounding glass. Drake heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. If the last one was also gone, he would probably be completely torn apart. In the meantime, Drake was even more confused. So, What was that black shadow that was running just now? Then, he shook his head. It doesn't matter. It didn't cause any damage anyway. He narrowed his eyes and clenched his fists. The most important thing now is to take back the other symbiotic demon. Below. In the forest. Wang. 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 It was the sound of cars and motorcycles. Motorcycles and small SUVs sped out and chased after Eddie. The motorcyclists kept firing their pistols. Bullets flew everywhere. There were even machine guns on the small SUVs. They swept towards Eddie in front. Da da da. The powerful firepower even tore apart the smaller trees. At this moment, two of the security guards dropped a ball of light. Ding. Security guard dropped. Rich experience in film reading. Whiteboard level. Do you want to withdraw? Li Shu looked at the introduction and was instantly speechless. It was a huge amount of experience in film reading. From infantry to cavalry, etc. It had everything. It had a rich store of physiological knowledge. However, what use did he have for this thing? Li Shu was speechless. Giving him free film reading, right? It seemed that this security guard liked colors very much. He actually came up with such an ability. He looked at the other ball of light and his eyes lit up. Ding. Security guard dropped. Mental strength 1. Do you want to withdraw? He did not expect that a small ordinary security guard could give him the rare attribute point of mental strength. Withdraw. Ding. Extracted. Rich experience in film reading. Triggered 5 times critical hit. Obtained. Massive experience in film reading, whiteboard level. Ding. Extracted. Mental strength 1. Triggered 7 times critical hit. Obtained. Mental strength 7 inches. The next moment, a huge amount of colors flowed into Li Shu's mind. It made Li Shu feel a little warm in his nose. The corners of his mouth twitched. Immediately after, he could feel a cool energy flowing into his mind. His mental strength had increased by more than 2 times. It made him feel that his mental strength had become stronger. He felt that his sense ability was further. It could radiate further. It seemed that the increase in mental strength had also increased sense. The other mental abilities also seemed to have been strengthened. Host. Li Shu. Strength. 87. Physique. 46. Agility. 54. Mental strength. 13 plus 7. An ordinary security guard doubled his mental strength. His ability became stronger again. It made Li Shu feel better. He looked at Eddie who was running in front of him and felt a little upset. After all, Venom's ability had not been dropped yet. And Eddie would soon escape by climbing a tree to avoid the pursuit and finally succeed in escaping. Then there would be no chance for it to drop tonight. Li Shu said silently, drop, Venom, drop one of your super abilities. Just as Li Shu was muttering in his heart. The next moment, a ball of light fell from Eddie's body. Seeing this, Li Shu's eyes lit up. Ding. Eddie dropped. Eddie's photography ability, whiteboard level. Do you want to withdraw it? Shish asterisk T. The veins on Li Shu's forehead slightly protruded. But then, a ball of light fell from Eddie's body again. Li Shu was a little afraid that it would be another ordinary ability of Eddie's. But when he saw the silver light, Li Shu's eyes instantly lit up. Silver level ball of light. It was definitely not something dropped by Eddie. Silver level light ball. This was the first time he had dropped it. Although he had silver level skills, they were all from critical hits. This was the first time he had dropped a silver level light ball. As expected of Venom, it could actually drop a silver level light ball. He looked at the newly dropped light ball. Ding. Venom dropped. Venom's magic resistance, silver elementary level. Do you want to pick it up? Venom's magic resistance. Through the structure of the body, it can resist a lot of magic damage to the body, but it can't be immune to magic damage. Seeing this, Li Shu's eyes lit up. Good guy. It could resist a lot of magic damage to the body. It was a very strong magic resistance. He didn't have much magic resistance now, and this magic resistance could make up for one of his shortcomings. He felt that if he continued to develop like this, he would become a real hexagonal warrior without any shortcomings. Li Shu quickly said in his heart, receive. Ding. Extracted. Eddie's photography ability. Triggered 20 times critical hit. Obtained. Master level photography, black iron elementary level. Ding. Extracted. Venom's magic resistance. Triggered 100 times critical hit. Obtained. Magic resistance, overflowing, silver high level. Master level photography. You have amazing things in the world, superb capturing ability, you can take the ultimate artistic photos. Li Shu saw this and felt a little helpless. He had reached the top level of a certain industry with just a casual drop. Seeing another critical hit skill, his eyes flashed. 100 times critical hit. Magic resistance, overflowing. Because of your body structure, you have extremely high magic resistance, but there will still be a small part of magic damage that will break through your defense line and attack you. Overflowing. When your magic resistance overflows, it will form a magic dispelling film in your body, which can further offset magic damage. The specific power is linked to the spirit. The stronger the spirit, the stronger the magic dispelling film's ability to offset magic damage. As long as your spirit is enough, you can completely resist magic damage. Seeing this, Li Shu's eyes lit up. Good guy. This was equivalent to the magic resistance overflowing into a protective shield, which could offset the magic damage that the magic resistance couldn't offset. As long as the protective shield was strong enough, magic couldn't hurt him. This was equivalent to pseudo-magical immunity. This time. From now on, he would have more confidence when facing magician. Li Shu looked ahead again. Eddie was in a dangerous situation. The enemies rushed in from all directions, and a large number of bullets were fired at him. Faced with such a situation, Eddie sprinted for a while and rushed into a corner where no one could see him. Then, he leapt up and jumped 10 to 20 meters into the air, rushing to the top of the tree. When the little assistant saw this scene, she gasped. This guy was just an ordinary person a moment ago. How did he become so fierce all of a sudden? Is this all caused by that black thing? It's too scary. Quote. The assistant swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Why are there so many monsters in this world? It's so dangerous. The little assistant's face turned gloomy again. Her head drooped on the desk and she sighed. Inside the forest. For a moment, the security personnel lost their target and ran around like headless flies in the woods. When Li Shu saw this scene, he understood that the battle was over. When the security personnel failed to find anything, they would search further away. At that time, ID would take the opportunity to escape. Thinking of this, Li Shu turned and left, running towards the Life Foundation. Boss, why are you running towards the Life Foundation? Did you get the direction wrong? Quote. Li Shu said, there are some things that can't be kept by bad people. I have an obligation to help humans bear some responsibility. The little assistant was speechless. Boss, you're just interested in something from the investor, aren't you? As Li Shu's close assistant for so many days, the big-breasted girl had a deep understanding of some of her boss's morals. Li Shu's expression remained unchanged. What do you know? He continued to run towards the foundation. At this moment, on the other side, in a certain alley in New York, a middle-aged man came here. There seemed to be some blood stains on the wall at the end of the alley. He touched the blood stains on the wall with his finger. Under the thin starlight, the blood stains on his finger were black. He sniffed and there was a rancid smell. The man murmured, another devil came here. This disgusting smell. Quote. The black blood seemed to have stimulated the man. Orange flames erupted from his body. The next moment, his head turned into a fleshless skull and was wrapped in flames. It looked extremely terrifying. This man was the cursed Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider looked at the blood stains on the wall and murmured, I will find you soon and destroy you. Li Shu ran all the way and soon rushed back to the foundation. He came to the underground laboratory again. In front of him was a glass laboratory. Inside, there was a container, and in the container was the Foundation's last symbiotic body. However, it wouldn't take long. The Foundation didn't find a suitable match for this symbiotic body, which eventually led to its death. Then, there were only two symbiotic bodies left on this planet, Venom and Riot. In the end, Riot was destroyed by Venom. If it wasn't for Venom being able to give birth to descendants, there would only be one symbiotic body left on Earth. Li Shu said, help me crack this door, I want to take away the symbiotic body inside. The big-breasted girl was scared. Ah, boss, are you going to take away this terrifying monster? Li Shu nodded. Definitely, he wouldn't integrate with the symbiotic body. After all, if he integrated with the symbiotic body, the other party would obtain his memories. And the symbiotic body was connected to the symbiotic god. If the symbiotic body knew, it meant that the symbiotic god would also know. This was something he wouldn't allow. Although he wouldn't integrate, he could study it. He wanted to study the symbiotic body. After all, the symbiotic body was a very strange species. Perhaps, he could even create a symbiotic body armor. If he could remove the side effects. The big-breasted girl covered her face. You really bring all kinds of strange things home. She took a deep breath, gritted her teeth, and typed quickly on the keyboard. Soon, the door was opened. Li Shu walked in with a smile and picked up the container of the last symbiotic body. This last symbiotic body will be safeguarded by him. On the roof of the building, Dr. Drake stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the forest nervously. He still had a treasure there. At this moment, his phone rang and his subordinate's voice came from the other end. Boss, that guy is gone. We lost him. Hearing this, Drake rage-punched the glass. 3 symbiotic bodies. I only have one left. Quote. This thief. Find him. Find him. Quote. Yes. The red light in the room suddenly flashed again and the alarm sounded. Warning. Someone is invading the symbiotic body laboratory number 3. Quote. Hearing this, Drake's pupils shook and he couldn't believe it. No. He quickly ran to the computer. On the screen, he saw a person with a smiling mask pick up the container of the last symbiotic body. Seeing this, Drake quickly shook his head. No, no, no. You can't. Quote. He quickly shouted at the phone, another person has entered the laboratory and is attacking the last experimental body. Stop him. Quote. The next moment. Whoosh. The smiling masked man turned into a black line and disappeared from his field of vision in an instant. Drake's pupils constricted. So it's you. He quickly flipped through all the surveillance cameras. He saw a black line moving quickly among the cameras. In a few breaths, the other party left the building and completely disappeared from his sight. Drake's entire body trembled. He knelt on the ground with a thud. His eyes were filled with despair as he roared to the sky, no. Drake was on the verge of a mental breakdown. In one night, all his symbiotic demons were gone. The high-level life forms that he had found with great difficulty were gone just like that. These 2 thieves. You will die a horrible death. Drake's face was ferocious. He picked up the phone. Find these 2 guys for me. Right. One of them is the reporter who came to interview me before, right? Find him for me. Quote. He gritted his teeth. I know his identity. He won't be able to escape. I can use him as a human experiment. Quote. As for the other mysterious person, find him. Find out everything. I must catch this guy. Quote. His eyes were bloodshot. I want him to know that super ability users aren't invincible. Li Shu didn't take long to return to his basement. He placed the container on a table. Da da da. The sound of slippers falling to the ground could be heard. The assistant walked down in her slippers with a trace of fear on her face. She looked at the thing in front of her. Is this the thing that can enter the human body? The symbiotic demons seemed to have grown countless tentacles as they crawled in the container. The assistant's scalp was numb. Li Shu nodded. It's this thing. It's called symbiotic demon. It can attach itself to a human and greatly increase the host's strength. You saw it just now. Under its buff, an ordinary person became comparable to a superhero. Although the symbiotic demon was very strong, the assistant still felt scared. It does seem very powerful. Li Shu continued, but the symbiotic demon also has its drawbacks. If it integrates with an unmatched person, it will greatly consume the other person's life energy. And it can easily magnify the evil side of people. So, don't open this container out of curiosity. The assistant laughed. Such a scary thing. I won't touch it even if I'm beaten to death. Li Shu continued, you continue to pay attention to Eddie. If anyone from the Life Foundation causes trouble for him, remember to inform me. Venom had only dropped magic resistance. The other abilities hadn't dropped yet. Moreover, Venom still had to fight with Riot. The battle between the 2 symbiotic demons should drop a lot of special abilities and attribute points. He was still quite concerned about the ability of the symbiotic demons. For example, liquefaction, camouflage, armory, extraordinary endurance, and so on. The assistant nodded. Then, he left the basement as quickly as possible. Li Shu, on the other hand, began to study the symbiotic body. With the biological knowledge dropped by the Iron Man, Li Shu had a rich and solid biological knowledge. This also provided him with technical support for his research on the symbiotic demons. In order for the symbiotic demon to survive, Li Shu found that he only needed to provide it with the most basic life force, which was to give it an ordinary life form and let it devour flesh. This bit of energy was only enough to prolong the symbiotic demon's life and would not increase its strength. In the end, Li Shu chose the chicken as the blood supplement for the symbiotic body. Because they did not integrate with others to form a powerful symbiotic demon warrior, the symbiotic demon prototype did not require much food. It was enough to replenish itself once every 3 days. Furthermore, in order to survive, the symbiotic demons could even enter a state of suspended animation. In this state, the consumption of energy was almost negligible. This was also the reason why Venom and the other symbiotic demons could survive in the cold universe for so long. However, it was useless for research on the symbiotic demons that were in suspended animation. The reason why the symbiotic demons in the research lab died was because they had been using mismatched people to integrate the symbiotic demons. The frequent integrations, coupled with various experiments, eventually led to the death of the symbiotic demon. It could only be said that Drake and the others were too weak. They could not be compared to Tony, who majored in biology. In the next few days, in addition to making the armor, Li Shu also studied the symbiotic demons. Li Shu now had a few goals for studying the symbiotic demons. First, to see if he could erase the symbiotic demons will and turn it into a pure combat tool. Second, to see if he could simulate part of the symbiotic demon's physiological structure and genes to create a device that could stimulate the human body's super ability. This could be used to stimulate the super ability in Daisy's body, and at the same time, help Daisy familiarize herself with and further develop her ability. Third, to see if he could create a set of symbiotic armor to increase his combat strength. After all, the symbiotic armor could be integrated into the body. It was very portable and could increase the original strength. It would be much stronger than the average steel battle suit. A few days later, the Golden Foundation found Eddie and fought with him again. They kept chasing after him. However, at that time, Eddie had completed the complete integration with Venom and could transform into the real Venom. Therefore, the combatants hired by the Foundation were completely unable to take down Venom. In the end, Venom still escaped. This time, Li Shu was still watching from the sidelines. However, his luck was very bad. He only dropped some things that were not painful. It seemed that the first 2 drops were too good, resulting in some ordinary people's ability to play the piano and shoot. He could only continue to study and wait for the next battle. At the same time, the riot had also successfully crossed thousands of miles and arrived in New York. It found Dr. Drake and successfully possessed him. The 2 villains joined forces. On the other side, Eddie had a big fight with Venom. The 2 of them suddenly fell apart. After the 2 sides broke up, Eddie was caught by Drake and brought back to the Life Foundation building. In the basement, the assistant hurriedly ran down. Boss, Eddie was caught. Not far away. Li Shu was wearing a silver white steel glove on his hand. His palm was shining brightly. Boom. A laser beam burst out. It directly shot the target in front of him. The assistant was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. Hearing the assistant's words, a smile appeared on Li Shu's face. When Eddie was caught, Venom would go to rescue him. Because after constantly fighting, the 2 failed men had actually become connected. The loser and the loser had formed a loser's friendship. Negative, positive. 2 failed men, forming a powerful Venom complete body. Following that, it was the final battle between Venom and Riot. The little assistant looked at Li Shu's hand and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Boss, did you go to the Stark Group and snatch back the Iron Man technology? In the little assistant's opinion, her boss was really capable of doing such a thing. Li Shu listened to the little assistant's words and coughed. Is this how I look in your heart? Plundering everywhere. Quote. The little assistant sniffed and asked doubtfully, isn't that so? Hasn't our Smiling Face Alliance already robbed so many things? Quote. The Smiling Face Alliance was the name the little assistant gave to the boss and herself. Definitely. This was what the little assistant called herself. She looked at the expensive materials on the ground, the symbiote container, the Edelman metal, and so on. The big-breasted girl sighed. The two of us are really too powerful. Li Shu glanced at the little assistant. Watch your words. It's me, not us. Why are you joining in the fun? The big-breasted girl's eyes widened like copper bells. And, I'm not plundering. I'm saving them from the bad guys. Also, who's the smiling face alliance with you? This name is really not good. Li Shu put the steel gloves on the ground. Okay, I should go. He patted the little assistant's head. Hurry up and go to work. After that, he disappeared quickly. The little assistant stood there, gritting her teeth slightly. Li Shu put on his mask and ran towards the foundation. It was like an arrow that had been shot out. Inside the Life Foundation, Eddie was tied to a chair. After being threatened by the riot, they wanted Eddie to tell them about Venom's whereabouts. However, Eddie had just broken up with Venom and didn't know where Venom was. After confirming that Eddie didn't know where Venom was, the riot ordered Eddie to be killed. Li Shu stood upstairs. He watched as he used his super perception to sense everything. He was waiting for Venom's arrival. Waiting for the battle between Venom and the riot. Soon, Eddie was taken into the woods by Drake's men. They were ready to shoot him directly. Seeing this, the little assistant said, "It's over, boss. Eddie is going to die soon. Aren't you going to save him?" Quote. Li Shu shook his head. Someone will come and save him. Shortly after, the security guard raised the gun in his hand and pointed the black muzzle at Eddie. The assistant. Right at this moment, a hand patted the back of the security guard. The security guard cursed, "Who the fool is joking with me? Can't you see that I'm doing something serious? Stop it. Don't make me angry again." Quote. With that said, he aimed at Eddie again. In the end, he was slapped a few more times. The security guard turned around angrily. In the end, he saw a pitch-black and slender monster looking at him, staring at each other with wide eyes. The security guards didn't have time to react. The other party opened its bloody mouth and bit off the security guard's head. She had helped Eddie resolve the crisis. The slender black monster was naturally Venom, but it was the complete body of Venom that had merged with Eddie's ex-girlfriend. When Venom bit off the head of the security guard, a ball of light fell from its body. Li Shu's eyes lit up when he saw this. He didn't expect that he would drop something so quickly. Ding! Venom dropped. Strength 2 feet. Do you want to withdraw it? Very good. A good start. Li Shu silently said, extract, in his heart. Ding! Extracted. Strength 2 feet. Triggered triple critical hit. Obtained. Strength 6 feet. Immediately after, a strange force surged into Li Shu's body. His strength had increased once again. Host. Li Shu. Strength. 93 plus 6. Physique. 46. Agility. 54. Spirit. 13. 93 points of strength surged in Li Shu's body. He felt that he could easily crush a tank now. Li Shu clenched his fists and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Below, Eddie saw Venom and didn't say anything. The other party kissed him forcefully. Eddie and Venom kissed. At the same time, the venom on his ex-girlfriend's body flowed towards Eddie. The two humans kissed each other. Seeing this, Li Shu felt that the top of Eddie's ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend's head was glowing green. In the end, Eddie's ex-girlfriend returned to normal, and Eddie transformed into Venom again. At the same time, Venom also learned from Eddie's memories that Riot was about to fly out of Earth in a spaceship to bring a large number of symbiotic demons back to Earth. Thus, the two of them reached a tacit understanding to stop Riot's actions and prevent the arrival of a large number of symbiotic demons. Whoosh! Venom rushed towards the launch pad. Li Shu also followed closely behind. On the launch pad, the rocket spaceship had already been activated and was entering the takeoff procedure. On the long steel corridor in front of the launch pad, a tall silver-black figure was running towards the rocket spaceship in front of him. It was Riot. While they were running around in the chaos, below the steel corridor, a pitch-black figure was also running. It caught up with Riot and even surpassed her. It jumped up and stopped in front of Riot, not far from the side of the steel corridor. Li Shu stood there and watched everything in front of him. He smiled. It's finally begun. He couldn't help but want something dropped in this battle. He also wanted to take Riot away when she was about to die. After all, the leader of the symbiotic demons was more valuable to research and collect than ordinary symbiotic demons. Seeing Riot die like this, he really felt that it was a pity. When the little assistant saw this, she swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Two big monsters. When Riot saw the other party, she smiled and invited, "Let's go, Venom. Let's go pick up more companions and let Earth become our breeding ground." What awaited Riot was Venom's fist. Riot was caught off guard and was sent flying, smashing into the iron railing. Riot was furious. "You trash, what are you doing?" Venom sneered. "I'm just stopping you." It shot out, its hand turning into a meteor hammer and smashing towards Venom. Venom quickly formed a shield to block Riot's attack. Riot didn't stop. With a wave of her hand, the meteor hammer turned into a huge scythe and slashed towards Venom. Venom quickly dodged. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. The scythe blade was extremely sharp and easily cut through the railing beside it. With Riot's huge arsenal, Venom could only dodge continuously. He didn't dare to take the other party's attack head-on. Venom circled around and hugged Riot from behind. He grabbed the other party's head with both hands, wanting to kill her. Clang clang clang. Countless spikes erupted from Riot's body. Venom shot out and smashed heavily onto the railing. He was no match for her at all. At this moment, a ball of light fell from Riot's body. Ding! Riot dropped Riot's arsenal, bronze high level. "Do you want to withdraw it?" Looking at the dropped items, Li Shu's eyes lit up. What he wanted came true. Riot's arsenal. Riot has unlocked the creation of various cold weapons. You can construct various cold weapons through your body. Each weapon has a special construction method and is extremely hard. Note: to use this ability, the liquefaction ability is required as a prerequisite ability. With this ability, it was equivalent to carrying a large number of weapons and armor at any time. However, Li Shu couldn't use this ability immediately. It also required the symbiotic body's liquefaction ability as a prerequisite. However, this was also within Li Shu's expectations. After all, to construct cold weapons, the body needed to be liquefied and could be changed at will. Liquefaction was the core and prerequisite ability of many of the symbiotic body's skills. Only with liquefaction could he use some of the symbiotic body's abilities. Arsenal and camouflage were both examples. Li Shu looked at the two symbiotic bodies fighting in front of him and thought in his heart, "This is your final battle, so drop more things. Drop liquefaction for me." Immediately, he thought in his heart, "Receive." Ding! Extracted Riot's arsenal triggered a 300x critical hit. Obtained arsenal wings. Silver high level. 300x critical hit. White shadow high level. Li Shu sucked in a breath of cold air. Good guy. This luck directly triggered a 300x critical hit. Seeing the new arsenal that appeared, Li Shu's eyes lit up. Wings. Li Shu knew about wings. This was something that Venom later possessed. According to Li Shu's knowledge, the symbiotic body's weapons were divided into two categories. One was the weapons that they could construct based on their own continuous learning. For example, Riot's sickle blade, meteor hammer, and Venom's ordinary shield. However, Riot's weapons were of a higher level and had a special construction method, so they were harder and stronger. As for Venom's ordinary shield, it just gathered the body into a board. It didn't have any technical content, so the effect was weaker. However, these were all things that the symbiotic body could construct on its own. There was another type of weapon that required contact with the symbiotic body's hive consciousness to unlock. Wings were one of them. It could allow the symbiotic body to grow dragon-like wings, which could produce powerful flight ability, as well as powerful defense and even attack power. Later, Venom unlocked this ability by coming into contact with his old enemy, the symbiote god Nar. Venom with wings was also Venom's most handsome form. At least that was how Li Shu saw it. Hence, when Li Shu saw the armory wings drop, a smile appeared on his face. This wave was a little comfortable. In the meantime, this made him even more hopeful that the ability liquefy would drop. After all, without liquefaction, the arsenal was full of weapons. Of course, Li Shu would not be discouraged if liquefy did not drop in this wave. After all, as long as Venom and the other symbiotic demons were on Earth and in New York, they would fight and drop. Li Shu looked ahead with a burning gaze. Drop liquid for me. Riot turned around and waved his arm. Pung! Venom shot out horizontally and hit the corridor, crashing into the steel floor. Riot immediately rushed up and attacked Venom, beating him to the point that he couldn't even fight back. The difference in strength was too great. Venom was completely crushed. When the assistant saw this, he took a deep breath. Oh my god, the silver-black symbiotic demons are too strong. They can even transform into all kinds of weapons. Venom can't fight back at all. Li Shu nodded slightly. There was no other way. After all, Riot was the leader of the symbiotic demons. She had experienced countless battles and was very experienced. And Venom was a small fry of the symbiotic demons. He had very little combat experience. It was normal for him to be beaten up. Riot grabbed Venom who had fallen to the ground. Her other hand grabbed Venom's head and tore hard, peeling Venom from Eddie's body. Then, she threw Eddie out. Pung! Eddie hit the ground. At this moment, 2 more orbs of light fell from Riot and Venom. Ding! Riot dropped. Riot's extraordinary endurance, White Shadow elementary level. Do you want to withdraw it? Ding! Venom dropped. Venom's disguise, Bronze elementary level. Do you want to withdraw it? Seeing that there was no liquefy among the dropped items, Li Shu was slightly disappointed. But when he saw extraordinary endurance, he instantly felt much better. After all, extraordinary endurance was quite good. It was also an ability that he wanted. This thing could increase his defense by a level. Riot's extraordinary endurance. After activating, your skin will be silver black. At the same time, your body's hardness will increase by a level. Whether it's shotgun bullets, submachine gun bullets, or armor-piercing bullets, they won't be able to hurt your body. You can withstand the bombardment of artillery and withstand the frontal fire of super heavy tanks and continuous crushing attacks. Seeing this, Li Shu's lips curled up slightly. With his extraordinary endurance, his defense had increased by a large margin. He could even withstand super heavy tanks. The only flaw was that his skin would change color. But fortunately, he could only use it in battle. Venom's disguise. You can change your appearance and body shape through consciousness. You can even change your vocal cords, fingerprints, and pupils. Note: requires liquefy as a prerequisite ability. Disguise was still a very powerful ability. It could even change fingerprints, pupils, and so on. It was almost equivalent to Mystique's special ability. But unfortunately, this ability might require liquefy. Li Shu said in his heart, receive. Ding. Extracted, rioting transcendent endurance, triggered double critical strike, obtained, strengthening transcendent endurance, silver elementary level. Ding. Extracted, Venom's disguise. Triggered 20 times critical hit. Obtained, disguise, invisibility, bronze high level. Disguise, invisibility. You can constantly imitate anyone. You also have the function of invisibility. You become completely transparent. Note: requires liquefy as a prerequisite ability. Seeing the new disguise, Li Shu's eyes lit up. Good guy. This was an ability that was tailor-made for him. After all, to be a bystander who didn't affect the battle, invisibility was a very important ability. However, it still required liquefy. This made Li Shu yearn for liquefy even more. This was a core ability of the symbiotic demons. Li Shu looked at the two of them and muttered in his heart, hurry up and drop it. A ball of light rolled out from Venom's body. Ding. Venom dropped. Venom's liquefy. Do you want to withdraw it? Li Shu. Thanks for watching.